Hi everyone, a bit of a different video for you. This time a fun one examining how I would fight the enemies of the Imperium as a Guardsman. I'll draw on the obvious lore of the 40th millennium, my experience as a rifleman in Australian Army, and a bit of hopeful logic when thinking about combating enemies from 38,000 years away. Nothing serious here, and please don't grill me if I take too many liberties when discussing some of the lore. So first up, Orks. These barbaric space goblins have only got one thing on their primitive minds, and that's a good scrap. I guess at least they're consistent, and this could be used against them. Ambushes and traps would be the way to go against them, baiting them into kill zones or mere simple traps like bungee stick filled pits or minefields. Also, given their relative inaccuracy with firearms, you'd be doing your obvious best to create distance between them, maximising the amount of firepower hitting them. The principle of overlapping fields of fire would be crucial to deal with any horde rushes, with priority given to heavy weapons. Individual guardsmen could see themselves assigned with a heavy bolter ammo box to carry or autocannon drum, thus giving assigned heavy weapon teams plenty of ammunition to cut them down. I am of course assuming said orcs are simply brutal, not cunning, with the more sneaky, tactically sound orcs requiring our generals to apply robust battlefield planning, trying to outmaneuver the orc war boss. Here the individual guardsman is a mere rounding error on a tactical display, with said general manoeuvring entire battalions, brigades or divisions around his halo display. No surprises here, and Commissar Yarrick and his Armageddon veterans would be handy to have around, given their successful experience of beating back the horde. Next, Necrons. These mind-blank, million-year-old constructs have a nasty habit of reforming even after the most brutal of injuries. Here, prompt battlefield clearance of enemy corpses is vital. Necron corpses should be further destroyed with explosives, or simply flattened by hammers, or tank tracks. Anything to avoid them simply reforming and causing a right mess again. Another terrifying feature of combat with them is that their weapons can make you disintegrate into nothingness, leaving behind no corpses for burial or return to family. Do platoon leaders have a private effect of each guardsman collected before deployment against Necrons? That way, if they are disintegrated, then at least there is something to remember them by. Drawing on the tabletop weakness is the inclusion of sanctioned psychers against these tin cans, given they have no organic defense against the powers of the warp. So hopefully busting them apart by the Imperium approved smite or castigation. Right next in the horror show is the great devourer, the Tyranids. This terrifying collection of space bugs comes in all shapes and sizes, and is controlled by the hive mind, with its will distributed by the bigger battlefield bugs. So the clever guardsmen will be picking these off first where possible. Next, the employment of flamers is recommended, easily burning through any concentrated knots of charging beasts. You want to also apply a similar principle to any uncontested ground, adopting a truly scorched earth policy, given the hive mind exists to devour everything, and that means absolutely everything. Any organic matter, even the most primitive, is devoured, including soil, rock, sand and water. Such an aggressive approach then begs the question as to whether exterminatus is a better option. But given we typically want to have a planet afterwards, this will probably be ruled out. So for the average guardsman staring down this gloomy prospect, you probably want to make sure they are well versed in battlefield first aid for comrades hit by spore weapons, with the very simple remedy of execution saving them from being eaten from the inside by a bug chewing through them. Lovely. Right now onto a more sophisticated enemy, the Tau. Sporting similar physiques to humans, these fish people make up for it with fancy war gear. Their fancy Japanese anime inspired robo-suits can lay down a brutal amount of firepower, and their flying saucer shield drones can really protect them, as illustrated effectively on the tabletop game. Here I suggest the guardsman requisitions any EMP style devices to disable their intricate circuit boards and force them to fight like real men, in melee, something to which isn't their strong point. How about our lasgun? Want it to be disabled, I hear you say? Yes, of course, but the smart guardsman will have also requisitioned the gunpowder operated autogun and autocannon, neither of which have got any electronically operated components. And finally, said Guardsman will also ensure that there are plenty of commissars around to prevent anybody walking over towards the tower camp, given all their talk of the greater good. Next is the evil flavour of Eldar, the Drukhari. Here I'm quite pessimistic, given these blokes and girls are all about inflicting pain on their enemy. I would suggest avoiding capture at all costs, even going as far as asking the Minotaurum dentist to implant a cyanide tablet in a rear tooth. Even something more basic like a permanently wide grenade in a webbing pouch that could be easily pulled to detonate if captured. You could go all out in the avoiding pain thing, dosing up on battlefield stims or morphine, so at least as you are being chopped to pieces by blade or shot to shreds by shuriken weapon, you're emitting less screams of pain, thus denying them a little bit of deranged pleasure. Now the hysterical version of the Eldar, the Harlequins. I would purposely annoy them by mandating daily comedy battlefield shows, hot meals and a comfy bed for each guardsman. The Harlequins will be right annoyed going into an enemy even more positive than they are. You could even prescribe respirators filled with laughing gas upon contact with the enemy, so they would be really confused going into an enemy laughing more than they are. On a more serious note, the Guardsmen should take confidence that the Eldari are physically little different to humans, so a lasgun should do good work. I'd suggest firing in blast mode to somewhat combat their lightning reflexes, dodging individual shots. Okay, next are the horrors of nightmares and the Imperium, Chaos Demons. The first thing to do is to polish any Aquillas on weapons, vehicles and equipment to a high shine, with its symbol burning holy fire on the impure beings. Next I would mutter prayers to the Emperor at every moment to combat madness, frequent visits to the Minotaurum priests, and ensure a commissar is ever present to execute any comrades that go mad. Given demons can fade in and out of reality, dodging incoming fire, just lose flamers at them. Sure, flamers are a special weapon, but how about just Molotov cocktails as they get close enough? Flamers are the way to go from an accuracy point of view, but also against Nurgle demons. It would get rid of any clouds of flies and do something about the smell. Like against the Necrons, a quick battlefield clearance after combat is important, but this time for slain comrades. Cremate all bodies in case Papa Nurgle tries to reanimate them with a Curse of the Pox. So next is Chaos Knights. Now tactically, an individual guardsman stands no chance against such a towering foe, so request transfer to the Armoured Corps or Artillery. That way at least you're in a tin can with a decent shooter, or far away with a decent shooter. You want to be digging a deep enough trench, or club together with other platoon members to construct a cosy bunker to live in. Just pray one of them doesn't step on it, or fires one of its mega shooters at it. So lastly are the worst of all being our Chaos Space Marines and their lesser cultist or traitor guardsmen. The last two are easier, given our superior discipline and battlefield tactics will outsmart these scum with rusty weapons, tattoos and body piercings. Against Chaos Space Marines is a very different story. Given a lot of them are well over 10,000 years old, they'll outmaneuver the most practiced of Astra Militarum commanders. I'd suggest requisitioning either another million guardsmen to even the odds, or the Adeptus Astartes, the Emperor's Angels. Praying to the Emperor and polishing Aquillas would be a good idea, but more seriously, make sure the command structure of the defense force is decentralized, presenting no one clear target for them to hit with an alpha strike. I thought about laying lots of booby traps and ambushes, but given their advanced optics and general know-how, I reckon it'd be quite tough to get the jump on them. Perhaps maybe if you're okay cutting one or two of them down before their return fire decimates the ambush party, it could be an option. I'd say also getting them into the open would be preferential, given our superior numbers can have more effect. But again, would they let themselves into such a position? Last piece of advice would be the evacuation of all civilians, ideally off planet. Chaos Space Marines are right evil bastards, so remove the opportunity of torture from them. Right, so there you have it. So my hot tips on how to fight against the enemies of the Imperium as a guardsman. What do you think? As said at the top, this is meant to be a bit of fun and nothing serious, so please enjoy as appropriate. Thanks for watching. Patreon Platoon, Sound off. Tank Commander Glenn, Tank Commander Mitchell, Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten, Colour Sergeant DuPont, Sergeants Adal, Gilliam, the Colonel Merrill, Veterans Gibson, Hall, Lundeen, Guardsman Beard, Flint, Hills, Malek, Nitton, Nguyen, Smith, Tom, Tompkin, Conscript England,